I mean, there's one church a block away from me, and it's a female pastor, a female lesbian pastor.
They're the new Crossroads Church, right? They got cool neon signs and they sing contemporary music. Makes them good.
See, that's the thing. It's been such a shift. Like it's literally like going into depravity, and I'm just not on board with any of that. Like I see some of my direct family members that are involved in those kinds of progressive churches now, and it's like they're getting zero guidance, and they're being instructed to like read things like Jesus Calling and stuff like that, where you've got people that are claiming to channel Jesus and then write down scripture and all this kind of weird stuff. And it's like I don't know. I just feel like it's so corrupted.
They are. I mean, they truly are. It's part of his deception. Remember, this is his realm, so Satan will do everything he can to keep you from doing the right thing. Crappiest looking Garden of Eden I've ever seen.
Like men are flawed, right? Like humans are so flawed, and the more we try to like invest into humans understanding and guiding us more so than like having a connection with the creator, I think is the more we get off of the path. And I feel like most people just want to be guided by men, and that isn't necessarily what I'm seeking or what I find fulfillment in.
Well, in my opinion, you're correct.
Yeah, is that like the appeal to authority kind of in that format?
Yeah, and I think it can go like, and I understand that. I'm sure you're probably not Christian, Geo, or whatever, but um, I feel like that goes for most other spiritual ideas or conceptions. Most of the time, people are looking for other men who have claimed to have these spiritual experiences to guide them. When I feel like we're all capable, like we're all capable to have that understanding that is being disseminated to us, and we don't necessarily need that intermediary from other men. Like you can use that as maybe guidance, but I feel like most people look and give praise to the prophet, if that makes sense. And so, like, this one guy, Buddha, had this crazy experience under a tree, and he's come to share his knowledge. And it's like you have the ability to have that experience as well. And your path of finding that experience or that revelation isn't going to be the same as that individual's, even though they might try to guide you in their specific path. I don't think that that's necessarily the proper path for everybody, if that makes sense.
Oh, for sure, dude. No, I'm totally following kind of as you're talking these ideas. Yeah, 'cause it kind of makes me think of like the difference between like if you're on a path and someone and your friend's on a path and you're both like, hey, let's journey together. But you're on your own paths, but you may have like some overlap or similarities. Maybe you're going to go down the same trail for a while. Maybe you're going to go down the same trail for quite a while, maybe for a whole lifetime, whatever it may be. But that's like having a companion on the journey. That's like one thing versus somebody saying, "Hey, I have the path. Come down my path." Basically, or I have the answer, or I am the gateway between the higher power and you, kind of thing. Because then when a person does that and then they take that position, yeah, I would see that as more of like a kind of like a spiritual pitfall where there's usually like control
Right.
or manipulation or something like that involved.
Yeah, and usually those people are like, "Yeah, this is the right path." And oh, by the way, yeah, there's a toll every 6 miles. It's fine. You just got to pay it. But this is the right path you need to go down. Everybody needs to go down this one. Yeah.
You know what's interesting? One book talks about taking the straight and narrow path. Kind of that reminds me of like straight being straight and level, not deviating, not curving. Just the thing.
There was a church in a town next to me I worked in on the ambulance, and I checked into that church and kind of find out they actually want your last year's tax return, and they done you each month. You get a damn statement from the church for 10% tithing, and that's what you had to do to be a member of that church.
Interesting.
That happens a lot. Like actually, even like in Germany, lots of times you have to have an association with the church, and that gets directly deducted from your paycheck from your employer. The tithe does. So, yeah.
I can see some benefits towards that, if especially if it's used properly. But yeah, I don't think that should be the primary reason why they want people to come to their church, just so they can access their bank account. But yeah, definitely. I think tithing I think helping the less fortunate is a great. It's like a present in itself.
Yeah, that's what it's going towards, but it still should also always be voluntary in nature. Meaning, I think it should always consciously be given in a voluntary manner. Not like, oh, I just signed up for this subscription and I completely forgot that it keeps coming out. It should be a very intention thing on a voluntary basis.
Definitely.
And that money should be actually like given to the less fortunate and maybe helping to sustain a community in some way, shape, or form if you have one that you call a church.
Yeah,
But-
definitely. I don't think the priest motivating factor should be like, I want to get 10 people to come to my church now because that'll be 10 tithing. I hope they're actually doing it because they want people to repent.
Well, he
Also-
has to, well, unless he wants to get a third jet ski, but
right? Yeah.
but yeah,
definitely.
I hear what you guys are saying. Yeah, like the spiritual, like the proper way to actually deal with like a financial exchange in a spiritually integral, with integrity. Yeah, like when it comes to that matter.
Yeah, definitely. They say even if you have a farm, you should leave 10% of your food to the animals, if I'm not mistaken, right? That kind of makes sense. I'm sure there's a lot of hungry animals out there now that we're taking their land, so to speak.
Yeah, it just seems like the propensity in the modern day with these churches would be that they would push it to try to, yeah, because they're like a business at some point. You know, they got to keep everything going, and then, you know, yeah, whether they're not supposed to be, you know, for profit, but at the same time, you know, however that all works out for everyone getting paid, who's you know a part of it. So it kind of ends up being more of a business with whether they have a mortgage or a land lease and like everything that gets involved.
They want to raise. Yeah.
Hey, I gotta run. I just want to tell you guys have a good night. Thanks for chatting, and I'll see you another time.
Likewise. Always
Yeah,
great speaking.
Yeah, you too.
All right, good night.
Yeah, my opinion, everything, if it is a church or a community that is coming together in, you know, in praise of the Creator, to me that should all be voluntary, right? Your tithes should go towards like helping the less fortunate in the community, not supporting somebody whose full-time job is to be some sort of spiritual head, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Did you guys ever see that video of the journalist who went up to Kenneth Copeland and she was asking him about his private plane? That was hilarious.
Those people are so evil, and that's the majority of atheists look at those people as what the Bible represents. That's the unfortunate world that we live in currently.
Now, if there were a devil, that would be him. in my opinion. And I wouldn't. He doesn't represent Christianity in any way. He's a charlatan.
Thank you, Left Lane. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm sure there's some yeah, I agree.
That athlete or whoever he bought that plane from, he gave him such a good deal he couldn't afford not to buy it.
Yeah, right. The Bentley. Oh no, it was the airplane. I think. Yeah, it was too good of a deal. I think when the reporter was asking him why he doesn't take regular flights, and he insists on the private plane. It was pretty interesting. I think she was trying to corner him into how he didn't want to be on an airplane with non-believers, and his response was
No,
interesting.
no, he made the comment that he would be in a tube or something full of devils or something like that. He made that
Yes,
comment. That, yeah.
unbelievable.
And now you understand why when, the story of Jesus does not have him hanging out and praising the priest class of that time.
That's right.
See, that prosperity and stuff goes back to Jim and Tammy Baker, and I remember them being on TV when I was a teenager, and of course you see what they did, and I mean, he ended up going to prison and blah blah blah. But those people, multi millionaires, and they're taking the money from people that really can't afford to give it, and that's how they're making their living.
Yep, and they're going to be judged the hardest. That's for sure.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that happens here in our judicial system. I think police are charged, not in the same way a civilian would be charged if they were charged with the same crime. I think the police, because they're aware of the law and the duty they were supposed to uphold, I think they face greater punishment. Leslie, no pressure. Do you think there's any book available, not the Bible, but any other book that you could hand somebody, let's say, the most extreme case in, let's say, solitary confinement? They're so extreme that they literally have to be separated from population because of the harm. Do you think there's any book that you would recommend to that person where they no longer need to be confined? Or anyone in the room? But yeah, Leslie, if you have an idea, no pressure.
Yeah, they need a book of LSD blotter paper.
Yeah, what do you see?
Yeah.
I believe people can be reformed, even the most extreme. I believe they could be reformed so much so that they go to the complete other end of the spectrum, where they're a complete danger. Now they're a complete, like, you can count on them. I think this was outlined in the book 48 Laws of Power. It talks about how sometimes your enemies are better for you than a friend, because an enemy, generally, if they've already crossed you once, they wouldn't want to do it again. So they're going to try harder not to do that because they already know the experience of and then being forgiven. So, whereas a friend they might not have that same sort of incentive. It was an interesting perspective. In fact, I don't even think you need a book. If you were given a message, let's say you read the book, or let's say there was the perfect book. psychologists, all these doctors from all medical fields, they got together, they brainstormed, and then they devised a protocol to heal, to deal with the most extreme cases. I believe that if you were to study that book, you wouldn't even need the book. You could just dialogue it. But yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I mean, in terms of the Bible, they already have the Bible in like the prison system or in the mental wards or whatever. So I mean, it's kind of I guess like in terms of like using that as like a way to rehabilitate someone in that way. I mean, it seems like that's already now. Maybe it could be maybe done better, where you could have more like guidance and support for people than there currently is. But I'm just saying, like the kind of like reform rate, if you want to use that, of the Bible is already in some ways. There's a lot of, I guess just cases of that, and it seems like I don't know what that effectiveness is. I mean, I guess some people that are attracted to it are like reformed because of it, but I don't know if that's like 5% or 10% or whatever it is, but it seems like it's the efficacy has already somewhat been studied with that one, with what the Bible can do for that.
Oh, true. And to your point, Gio, I was watching a documentary where someone went in, because in South America, they started building these super prisons for all the gang members, like MS-13 and all the like. And once a year, they let in select reporters, just so they can show what's going on. And the reporter that spoke to one of the guys, because it's mandatory Bible teaching in there now, because they're so extreme, that one of the inmates, he accepted Jesus, but the guy who was the reporter, he didn't feel like it was genuine. So who knows? Maybe it was genuine and he just wasn't picking up on it. But there could be cases where it might not be genuine. But hopefully, thank you for pointing that out. I do believe, the Bible does work, and maybe there are other books that have a higher success rate. If there are, I'd like to know what they are. Next time you go up, make sure try to find the horizon and see if you can distinguish the curve, and then you can let us know.
My little plane, I can't get that high, but I've had it up almost to 10,000 feet, and it took me 30 minutes to get there.
Oh, wow. Thank you. That must be pretty thrilling, pretty fun. Are there any places that you'd like to fly to?
Yeah, the main interest is my partner's daughter. She lives out in North Carolina, and we like to visit her more often, and this allows that. We can fly out and visit, for even a half a day and fly back home, where it takes about a half a day to get there. Well, it takes a whole day to get there by driving, so it just brings that more in reach, and then we'll fly to the mountains or go eat lunch in Missouri and things like that. Just flying around having fun.
That's amazing. Smart. Would you ever fly to Hawaii? That's a long one.
If I had an aircraft that would fly that far, I don't know though.
That's a long one. Yeah.
It's a pretty taxing flight. Yeah, it kind of takes the fun out of it to fly that far.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
2 hours later, we get data from it. And not only do I get data from it, but that data becomes available worldwide. And each satellite data has its ID encoded. So, and satellite, SV-58 gets launched. Some hours later, everybody in the whole world gets data from SV-58. So, I don't know what else to tell you. The whole world, including Antarctica.
Can you understand other people that might think it's strange that of all the satellites up there, like there's no satellite that's ever taken a picture of another one, or there's no pictures of a satellite in actual, free falling around the globe?
No, I don't think that's strange because of the scales and the distances involved. Of course, you're going to take something the size of an SUV and have it, 3,000 miles away. Well, what are you going to do? Run up next to it to take a picture of it? And when satellites do pass in some proximity to each other, they have a differential speed, thousands of miles an hour. And
Zinger. By the time you recognize it's coming, it's gone. So if they meet head on, it'd be in excess of 35,000 miles an hour, wouldn't it?
well, yeah, but few of them are retrograde. So But yeah, we've had the satellite collisions. There was that defunct defunct Russian satellite and an Iridium satellite that collided, sprayed debris everywhere. That debris is tracked by radar. Is anybody photographing the debris? Well, no, because a lot of it's the size of engine parts. But it's tracked by radar. Radar can track these things just fine. And again, a satellite is tracked. They even use laser ranging to satellites to further determine their orbits, and we get data from them. And the data structure is such that there is no question that satellite was not there last month. It is there this month. As part of a constellation, the U.S. has 30, and the European, I think, has 24. Russia has at least 30, and China is on its way to launching about 60. I think they're halfway there. And that's just the navigation satellites. Then you have the Starlink. They've already got over 7,000, and they were live streaming from Union Glacier. There's no undersea cable or tower system there. I measure the Earth, and I use many different technologies. I've done it for a very long time, and I've done it in many areas of the Earth, north and southern hemispheres, east and western hemispheres. Yeah. So, sunrise, sunset, eclipses, tides, measurement, satellites, satellite technology. Yeah, all that good shit. All comes together to one thing: that which has been known for 2,000 years.
You sound well versed. Can you define what north is to me?
Yeah, as the Earth rotates, being a sphere, there's an axis of rotation, and we call one of them north.
Okay.
Shoebill, would it be impossible that there's a magnetic North Pole mountain at the top of the globe, or would that be
No.
conceivable?
No, it's conceivable, but
Okay.
we've been there. It's not there.
Okay, yeah.
So is north a direction?
Yes, you asked earlier, right? The Earth rotates on an axis, and the axis, where it hits the surface of the Earth, on one side, we call it north, where it comes through the surface of the Earth. On the other side, we call it south.
So
Yeah, it is a direction.
It's a geographical north then.
Uh-huh.
A point,
Yes.
and you have that verified?
Yes.
And that's what all this is structured around.
Well, to the same equal weight as the south geographical point.
Oh, thank you, Shoebill, and maybe for anyone else, because I've heard this argument from. He was a flat earther, but he was trying to understand how the magnetic fields apply in the South Pole. In your understanding, let's say if we're in the South and we have a compass, is the field, I guess, wrapping around the curve of the Earth, essentially, just like in the images?
Yeah, the magnetic field, which has a northern pole and a southern pole, which are not geographical. It's a geological artifact of the planet. Yeah, it emanates from the center of the Earth, and if you take a spherical magnet, you're going to get you can get the same pattern, same thing. And the magnetic South Pole, or where the magnetic dip is near vertical, is nowhere near the geographical South Pole. As is the North magnetic pole, is not particularly close to the geographic North Pole, because it's a geologic artifact. It's convenient, it's handy, because having mapped the angles of declinations, it's useful as an assist, as a low order navigation tool.
It's a field
Uh-huh.
above that you're sensing.
Yeah, magnetic fields is like a very high physics science. I'm not particularly versed in, but I just know how to utilize it with compass navigation relative to geodetic navigation.
But they're not directly correlated.
Correct.
Right. So it's a lot of assumptions.
Well, the magnetic one, is it's been studied quite intensively, and much is known about it. So
Yeah, there's a lot
I don't know.
of
I don't know at what point. I don't know what point working known knowledge is no longer an assumption. So
I mean, when it directly would be something that would be verifiable physically, but you can't because it's not and never has been.
well, just not to your satisfaction, I guess.
To anyone's satisfaction, I mean, just to the satisfaction of logic, they're not tied directly together. There's sky, and then there's Earth, and they're not directly correlated. So that's why we're in the mess we're in.
No, it's not the mess we're in. We have no mess. You're just telling us we're in a mess.
We're not in a mess.
When it comes to the shape, size, dimension of the Earth and navigating around it,
I really haven't talked about that. All I've really talked about is the whole of the correlation between what you're using as fact.
okay. Me and the entire, every industrialized country in the world for the past couple of centuries. Yeah, I'll go with that side.
They're still going to say the same thing. They're going to answer the question the same that you just tried to answer. That they're not directly correlated.
Yeah, the magnetic field and the geodetic latitude longitude system of the shape of the planet. Yeah, the magnetic field is organic. It's a geologic feature. It's only somewhat relatively close.
So you think the magnetic field is a geologic feature?
Yes, I do.
How can you verify that?
Yeah, because it's a product emanating from the center of the Earth. The magnetic field is part of the Earth.
I don't know that that's true.
No.
Being certain of the globe. And yeah.
Great. Some more certainties based on hypotheses.
Yeah, one thing I like to challenge globe defenders is just on the fact that the very first time the globe was actually visually confirmed was during the moon Apollo missions, where they went far enough away from the surface of Earth to actually see it.
Story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And they only
keep talking about it, you might just believe in it.
right. There's a term for that, repetitive.
It's called make-believe.
Yeah, that too.
Narration and stories.
Yeah.
The fabric of the material realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You make it sound like it comes from a Harry Potter book.
Yeah, you want to hear more about that, I guess.
Well, I mean, like Shoebill, for instance, I would call him a genuine citation in referencing the measurements of the planet. So I don't think that was based on any assumptions of any kind.
What does that mean? Does that mean that you side with me with some type of genius?
What now?
What exactly did you say?
No, Shoebill, that was just speaking. I mean, he doesn't have assumptions in his work. He's actually physically gone out and measured the planet from various locations around the world.
Okay. Did you hear what we just talked about?
He said something about assumptions, built on assumptions, but I wouldn't say that would be assumptions.
Well, do you understand what make-believe is? Let's begin there.
Holy smokes, I just saw a falling star, a huge falling star. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a good example of make-believe.
No, I saw it.
Make a wish. Make a wish.
So it was a falling star now, you said?
Actually, it was probably a chunk of metallic debris falling into Earth's atmosphere from space
That's so
at a high rate of speed.
dude. Holy shit. Yeah,
What do you think? What would you think it is?
Well, obviously not some really materialized and fake and gay story.
What do you think happened over Choblensk, Russia in 2013?
No, stop changing the topic.
No, that's another meteor. That was
no. Listen to yourself, attempting to excuse changing the topic when we're talking about a specific case example right here and now, which is that he's using his very eyes to study something that we can now talk about, and not just your imagination of someone else's hearsay.
He uses his eyes and instrumentation.
Let's hear what is
Okay,
Stephanie doing without gaslighting him. Okay.
No, the point is that is one of many that people see so frequently. So it's not just that what he saw was one unique event. It's an event which repeats many times.
But was it that he saw it, or is he now actually seeing it? Like, stop making his current experience into past experience. It's currently happening, is it not, Mr.
You could.
Something that is for certain.
80?
But it would be good.
Just you and Jeremy.
Which are now and like just like it did in Russia,